Okay, so we're moving on to lesson 7.3, factoring x squared plus bx plus c. In other words, it is a trinomial. It has 3 terms. It is quadratic because it is a degree 2. And the b that is in front of the x just is representing the number of x's there would be. And the c represents the constant in the trinomial. So we have an x squared term, and it's always, in today's lesson, it's always, that x squared term is always going to be a 1x squared. We just won't see the 1 written there. So it's always going to be a 1x squared, but then the number of x's there are can be a positive number of x's or a negative number of x's. And then the constant that we have, the third term of the trinomial, can either be a positive number or it can be a negative number. So the diamond method that you guys worked with on Friday helps provide a way to factor these quadratic trinomials. When a is equal to 1, there's not really an a here, but we could write a here. How many x squareds are there? Well, when our a is 1, we get to use this method. So you're going to be looking for the factored name for some trinomials. So like this, x squared plus 11x plus 10. I tell you that its factored name is written right here. Its factored name is x plus 10 times x plus 1. Didn't use factoring by grouping because we can't. Why can't we use factoring by grouping for this one? Why couldn't we use factoring by grouping? It has to be true if you're going to use the factoring by grouping. You're going to have how many terms? 4. How many terms do we have?
2.
Only 3. Would we be able to make 2 groups of 2? No. So we can't use the factoring by grouping method. How about GCF? Can we just GCF that x squared plus 11x plus 10? Does x squared, the term x squared, the term 11x, and the term 10, do they have any common factor other than 1? Is there anything you can divide out of x squared that you can also divide out of 10x, that you can also divide out of 11 other than 1? No. So the GCF method that we learned isn't going to be useful. Factoring by grouping isn't going to be useful because we don't have 4 terms. So we have to come up with another method. And I'm telling you right now, here's its factored name. But how are we going to get to that? Let's just verify, though, that first of all, x plus 10 times x plus 1 actually is that trinomial. Let's FOIL this out. So what would our F step be of FOIL? X times x. Do this with me, please. X times x is? X squared. This is kind of like we're doing a check problem. This is not how we're going to learn how to factor. This is like checking to see if we have good factors or not. Okay, how about the O step? What would the O step be? X times 1. And that is 1x, or just x if you're already cleaning it up. Okay, what's the I step? 10 times x. And that is 10x. And what's the L step? 10 times 1. 10 times 1. And that is 10. Okay. Remember, when we have like terms, they can be combined. What does 1x and 10x combine to be? 11x. So now we say, okay, there's our products from our multiplications. Bring them together in an addition problem. So it does take us back to the polynomial that it started with. The factor name, when we actually multiply those factors times each other, we get the trinomial that we renamed, that was renamed for us in factored form. Okay, well, let's look at that. Let's see what actually happened here. Let's look at those factors. So here's our factors, you guys, that I'm talking about. The factors end with the numbers that the factors end with. So they end with 10 and 1. The factors end with the numbers that multiply to be the C value of, what is the C value in our original trinomial? What's the C value? 10. So they do 10 times, to this 10 and this 1, do they multiply to be 10? Yes. Okay. And they add up to be the B value. Here's our B value. What's our B value? 11 since the two numbers that the factors end with multiply to be the C value, and they add up to be the B value, that should sound familiar from our diamond pattern on Friday. But here's how we're going to make our diamond. We're just going to make an X. And notice up here is the C value, what it needs to multiply to be. Down here we're going to put the B value, what it needs to add up to be. So what we're looking for today is we're looking for what are those numbers that we will have to place here to make that happen. We'll have to complete the diamond. So we're going to put a 10 up here because that's our C value. We're going to put 11 down here. And we need the two numbers that multiply to be 10 that add up to 11. And they are 10 and 1. So basically, I guess I should have put this in. This is 11 and the C is actually 10. So that's where we got the stuff to put into our diamond. Our X, we're going to call it, I guess. And so whatever you end up with here, remember that's what your factors have to end with. That's what your factors will end with. So we're saying that the factors need to end with 10 and 1. And then they always start with what variable times itself gives you the first term, which is x squared. So they both start with x. And then we have addition between both of them. So what's really going to stay the same today, always, is they're both going to start with x. They both will have addition to start with. We may have to clean them up, but they'll start with addition. And then they're going to end with, what are those two numbers that we found in our diamond as our numbers across from each other? The two numbers that have to multiply to be the top one and add up to be the bottom one. So this is kind of like just taking one that was already done for us, seeing what its factor name was, verifying it, checking it, and then kind of seeing, okay, how are we actually going to do that? So let's just go practice.
So what's the point of the x squared then? Like, it doesn't do anything.
Well, if we FOIL this back out, remember, the first f times f, wouldn't that be x squared?
Oh, so when we like FOIL that out, it should get back to that?
Yep, it should get back to that. Just like half. Remember, we checked that out, didn't we? We checked to see if those are our factors. We checked to see if they came out to our polynomial we started with. And so that's why both of the factors have to start with x, because when we multiply the f step of FOIL, we should get our x squared back. Okay, let's go practice on the back side here. First thing you want to do every time is identify the b value and the c value, and then put them in the diamond in the correct location. So what's the b value of this one?
15.
15.
So is the b one always the one with the x?
Yep, the b is always, how many x's are there?
4.
And then what's our c?
50.
50. Okay, remember in our diamond, the c is going to go upstairs in the diamond and the b is going to be down. So we're going to put the 50 up here and the 15 down here in our diamond. So now we have to figure out, remember from our diamond pattern, what multiplies to be 50 and adds up to 15.
5 and 10.
5 and 10. Would you agree that 5 and 10 work? So 5, 10, does order matter in multiplication?
No.
Could the 10 be where the 5 is and the 5 be where the 10 is?
Yes.
Yes, does not matter. Okay, so that means now, remember these are the numbers that our factors are going to end with. Factors, I want you to put this in your notes. Factors end with these numbers. Factors end with these numbers. Those two numbers that you find are what your factors are going to end with. And remember today, your factors are always going to start with x. They're always going to have addition in them to start with. And then if we need to clean them up, we will. And then they're going to end with those two numbers that we just got. So here, is our final answer. There is the factor name of the polynomial x squared plus 15x plus 50. If we FOIL that back out, if we FOIL x plus 5 times x plus 10, what should we get?
You should get,
Without doing it, you guys, what should we get if we actually FOILed x plus 5
x squared plus 15x plus
x
50.
plus 10? Yeah, we should get x squared plus 15x plus 50. Now, so again, if you wanted to check to see if you had good factors, you would FOIL them back out and see if you get back to what you actually started with. Okay? Any questions on that one before we move on? Okay, let's move on to the next one then. What's the first thing we're always going to do? And I want it written down.
Find B and C.
B and C. So B equals, C
-7.
equals.
I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm thinking that the first thing we might want to do is change that one into, we get some subtraction in it. Whenever we have subtraction to help us be more successful, we change it to add the opposite. So what's our B value?
8. Just 8. Positive 8.
Positive 8?
Oh, just kidding. I'm on the wrong one. -7.
Negative 7. What's our C value?
12.
12. Make our X. What goes up in the top of our X?
12.
12. What goes in the bottom?
-7.
Negative 7.
-4, -3.
So we're looking for the two numbers that multiply to be 12, and at the same time, they add up to be -7. Cassidy, you have the right two? Is -4 times -3 positive 12?
No, shouldn't it be -3?
4 times.
Does it matter which, does
Yes.
order matter?
Yes.
It will be negative to positive, and that has to be negative. Negative plus negative is a negative.
So, Jesse, was I here, is this what I was hearing, is you want it to be like this?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Same thing.
Will we still be all right? Because if we multiply -3 times -4, do we still get 12?
Yes.
Okay, and if you add -3 and -4 together, does order matter in adding either? No, so we can, do they add up to -7? So it does not, order does not matter. So it doesn't matter which one you have on which side. So now remember that means these two numbers are what our factors, where do these go in our factors?
X subtract 3.
So factors end with these. You don't have to write that every time in your homework, but in your notes you want enough information to have a good guide to follow. So now we're going to say, okay, it's x plus -4, x plus -3, but of course we can do what with that? Clean it up. What is it? What are those factors cleaned up?
X -4 and X -3.
X minus 4, x minus 3. No addition sign between those two sets of parentheses. We got multiplication going on here. We have a binomial times a binomial. If we FOILed it back out, it better get us to x squared minus 7x plus 12. Okay, questions about that one? Okay, let's make our first move, changing the subtraction to add the opposite. What's next?
Figure out B and C.
Figure out your B and your C. So what's our B value?
8.
8.
Yeah.
What's our C value?
-20.
-20. Why is that important?
So you know where to put them.
So you know where to put them in the diamond. So we make our X, which is going to qualify as our diamond. What's going up?
-20.
Negative 20 goes up. And positive 8's down. What times what is negative 20? Well, whenever you have to multiply to get a negative, how many of them are going to have to be negative? One of them. So you need one of them to be negative and the other one to be positive, but yet when they add together, sometimes they're going to have to add up to be a negative. This time they got to add up to be a positive. So what two factors of 20?
Negative 10 and 2.
Negative 10 and positive 2? And sometimes the thing to do is just stick them in there and try them. If you can't get your head to do it without seeing it.
That's wrong.
Okay, well let's try it. Negative 10 times 2 is what?
Negative 20.
Negative 20. Negative 10 plus 2.
Negative 8.
Negative 8.
Oh, you want a positive 8.
We want
Yeah,
positive
and it's
8.
supposed to be negative 2.
So we gotta make, instead of the 10 being negative, we need the 2 to be negative, don't we?
Negative.
Yeah, and isn't that's really important. We gotta be really careful about making sure the correct one is negative or we'll get the wrong factors. And you don't just say to me tomorrow when we're correcting, oh, I just had the wrong one negative. Just makes both factors wrong and takes all the points out on a quiz. So don't take it lightly. Okay, so our factors are what?
X plus 10 and x minus 2.
X plus 10, x plus negative 2,
X plus 10, x minus 2.
and it cleans up to x plus 10, x minus 2. There's our factored name.
If I have it, I'm just doing that right away.
Pardon?
Just
I
write
have-
it clean up right away.
Yeah, you can write it clean up right away.
Same
So-
with like add the opposite.
You need to have the steps of work though. You need to show me B and C identified. If you can identify B and C truly, correctly all the time without changing it to add the opposite, I'm fine with that, but you better make sure you're successful, then you're just not adding those negative signs in tomorrow when we're correcting. B and C have to be identified. You need to show completing the diamond, and then what are the factors? How could you guarantee that you would have it right?
Foil.
Foil it out and see if you get it back to where it's supposed to be, right? Okay, try number 4 on your own. This is the point that Mrs. Egermont and I are not going to come immediately to your rescue. You put in here what's supposed to be, what they're supposed to multiply B and what to add up to, and you're like, I don't know what this is, what is it? Or you ask somebody else clear across the classroom, what multiplies to be negative 42 and adds up to negative 1? I can't get it. You just need to keep trying to get it. And you're going to find little strategies that are going to help you be more successful. Anybody think they know a strategy for when they have to multiply to be a negative, and then they have to add up to be either a positive or negative? Any sort of quick strategy that helps you with, other than having to run through all the factors?
I divided by 2.
Divided by 2. Okay. But 2 times 1 is 42.
Well, I just keep on dividing it down by 2.
Or you just keep dividing it by 2. Okay, how about you run through the list of factors in your head, like 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14, 6 and 7. But you know what? When one of them is positive and the other one is negative, don't you really have to find out how much distance there is between them? When you add a positive and a negative together, aren't you really finding out how much distance there is between them? So I need a unit of distance between my factors. Well, I know 1 and 42 aren't only a unit apart. 2 and 21 aren't only a unit apart. 3 and 14 aren't only a unit apart. apart, but guess who are?
7 and 6.
6 and 7 are only a unit apart. Now I just have to decide which one's going to be positive and which one's going to be negative.
-7.
The 7 is going to have to be negative. So there's my two numbers that my factors need to end with. So x plus 6, x plus -7, cleaned up, x plus 6, x minus 7. How many of you have the right factor's name?
I wrote 42. I don't.
Okay, yeah, you gotta be really careful. I gotta make sure that's gonna multiply out. Leave it. You said it right.
Yeah,
Yeah. When you kept your hand up, I thought maybe you already had a question too. Okay, so I think you can do this stuff?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll get your worksheet out to you.